Everyone is so confused about armor in Tarkov. I get asked about 5 times a stream what's good, which to use, and how the system works, and I get it, it's changed about 10 times in the last 2 years, but there are some surprising ramifications that are certainly not obvious in how it works now. So today we'll be breaking down the full mechanics of Tarkov's current armor system so you can get the best performance out of your kit in Raid. So first we've got to build this up in layers, and we're going to focus on class 5 and 6 armor predominantly because class 4 is pretty easy to do, and you'll understand why once we've gone through these principles. The first one being that you cannot buy class 5 or 6 front or back plates from the flea market. The only thing that you can get there are side plates, which are much less impactful for reasons that will become obvious in a moment. This means that traders and barters, especially those locked behind quests, are going to be a more important source for consistent armor than really anything else. Class 5 now, at this point in the white, tends to be the baseline for PvP because Class 4, although it probably is the most used armor overall, all of the high-end bullets just eat straight through it as if you're not wearing anything at all, which is why if you do want to perform, I think you probably should be targeting Class 5 at least. So point number 2 is there are 2 types of armor in Tarkov fundamentally when it comes to the mechanics. You have soft armor and you have the hard plate armor. First we're going to look at the soft armor itself, and when you look over the armor areas you can see this distinguished because these are the parts in the lowercase letters. So here you can see various places on the PMC's body that are going to be covered by soft armor on this particular piece, which is the Gen 4 mobility. The 2 at the bottom, the FR plate and the back plate, are to do with the plate itself, which we'll come on to in a moment. Now if we go and look at our PMC, there are quite a lot of hitboxes now. We obviously have the head hitbox itself, which is split into multiple parts, but it doesn't really matter that much because wherever you get hit you usually die, and this then feeds into your head HP up here. We have the throat hitbox, which we're going to touch on again in a second, which is really important now, which now goes to your thorax rather than your head specifically. And then on the rest of your body, you then have 4 hitboxes around your thorax. You have front and back, you have left and right sides, and then stomach has 6 hitboxes, which is the front, the back, the left and right sides, and then you also have the groin and the buttocks area. If we go back to the Gen 4 armor, you'll be able to see where these appear. So in the armor areas there, you can see that we have stomach, which is this lower front section there, that's front stomach, thorax, which is the front of the thorax too. We've got lower back, which is this section of the stomach. We've got the upper back, which is this section connected to the thorax HP pool. You've then got left and right sides. This is specifically the stomach sides. So far we've had stomach and lower back, and then left and right sides. Those are all stomach hitboxes. And then you've got throat, which we talked about a second ago and are going to go into in more detail, and back of neck, which is the 2 parts of the neck, the front being the throat section and back of neck being the back. And then we've got groin and buttocks on this armor too. So groin is that part and buttocks is this part. So as I said, we've got 4 hitboxes for the thorax, front, back, left and right. You won't ever see left and right thorax in the soft armor hitboxes because there is no armor in the game that covers with soft armor explicitly on the PMC's body. And this is where it gets a little bit complicated, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later on because there are armors that do allow for this, but not with this particular mechanic. So let's just stick with this for the moment, bear with me, and it will become obvious. So we've got these 4 hitboxes for thorax, front and back, the 2 sides, which can't ever appear in this list. We've then got the stomach, which has 6 hitboxes, front, back, left and right, groin and buttocks. We've then got the neck hitboxes, which is split into the front and back, throat and neck, and then the head hitboxes that we looked at a second ago. So the important part about the soft armor is that these are the pieces that connect to the PMC's direct body. So all of these sections here that are inbuilt and can't be moved, they're actually on your player directly. If your player gets shot by something, it immediately impacts on your PMC's body in the same way as it would interact with your actual HP. So soft armor is a infinitely thin layer over your PMC. Wearing any particular armor of that type on soft doesn't increase your hitbox in any way. And also, every piece of soft armor that is listed like this is exactly identical between every piece of armor. If an armor says stomach, it protects the entirety of the front stomach hitbox, regardless of what the armor looks like, and that is consistent across all armors. So you can compare armors like for like, apples for apples, just by looking at this list and looking at what the soft armor protects for those particular types. Let's touch on the neck hitbox a little bit. As I said, this has got 2 hitboxes, the front of the neck and the back. You just have to be a bit careful because some armors, they only have throat and they don't have back of the neck, so you can be shot in the neck from the back. But this matters a lot less than it used to, and a lot of you will probably be aware that the throat hitbox got moved from the head. So if you got hit in that throat section, which can't be protected by plates normally, that used to go to the head. So if you got hit without throat armor with something like 9x19 PST, that does enough damage to kill you. There's no damage mitigation because there's no soft armor there at all, and that would just kill you straight up. In order to make the game a bit more consistent, BSG changed this, and so now the neck hitboxes float down to the thorax. So even if you get shot there when you're not wearing neck armor, it now won't kill you outright because it'll deal 50 damage or whatever it should be, and only rounds with over 85 HP can now go through the no neck armors and kill you straight away, because it now hits you on the thorax instead, gives you a much higher threshold to play with. The rounds that usually do this are things like APM. There's one good example, and maybe some of the Lapua bullets, so it's not that many. So next we need to understand about plates, and I actually have two videos about armor plates. This is the simplified version that was posted by BSG as part of one of their tutorials, and this, as you can see, came in at 14.91. This is HPC, and this is how the old system used to work, so there were lots of gaps. This is not the case anymore, and now it looks a lot more like this. This is not strictly true. This is a slight simplification of the exact system, but just using this because it's actually a lot easier to see on this diagram what's happening. This is the front plate here. You've then also got front plate around the arms there. You've got side plates here and here on this side, if I could turn it like that. And then we've got the back plate on the back. So you can see you can actually get hit in the front plate, even just around the shoulders and that kind of thing. So the front plate is really the most important section. And this is where the whole concept of not having armor under the arms comes from, because you now have front plate armor under your arms covering the thorax sides of the hitbox, which can't be covered by soft armor. Another ramification of what you can see in this particular video that is true is that the hitboxes for plates are their own hitboxes. They stand proud of the PMC. You can actually get a grazing shot on a player. For example, imagine if a player was standing like this towards you and you fired at his back or his front, you can actually hit the plate without hitting the PMC, even with high pin rounds. So it is possible to just graze the plates because they do stand outside of the player's model. So you've got the player's model itself with soft armor plastered to it directly, and then you've got armor plates which are actually around it as well, which gives you this kind of layering effect. You can shoot through the armor plate, that's its own hitbox, and then if it goes through that, it then hits your PMC, which is the second hitbox. Plates are now also all exactly the same size, no matter what shape they were. BSG did have this system in the past, but it just didn't really work very well, and so they changed it. So all of the front plates look like this. And we can also see the ramifications of changing this too, is that sometimes people think side plates are really important, but side plates only affect the stomach hitboxes and not the thorax. So yes, side plates will stop you from taking huge amounts of damage to your stomach, although this is actually a lot less bad than it used to be, because the damage passed through from the stomach is not 150% like it used to. It's now only 105, so you're a lot less likely to just get completely destroyed. And you also normally have soft armor in those places as well, with some exceptions, but we'll look at that in a sec. The second video I want to show you is a more detailed wireframe version that Nikita put on Twitter, which is unfortunate because it means that the quality of the video is not very good. What you can see here, the wireframes here, are the actual PMC hitboxes themselves, or the soft armor hitboxes, depending on what you want to think about it as. And you can see here we've got the old here, you did actually title it there, old and new. So we've got the old hitboxes here. This is an old kind of diamond shaped plate that you'd find in like a Gazelle or something. And then you've got the new plates here, which are much more square. Now it's a bit of a confusing picture to watch, but the easiest way to show it is, firstly, I'll just play it so that you can see it as it turns. And the boxes inside the wireframe are the ones that are for the PMC themselves. Now, there's some ramifications for this, which is as we let this play, you can see here, this box there is actually the thorax hitbox. So you can see this is the reason why you end up with 4 hitboxes, because you have front, back, left and right sides. And if we just scrub this back just very slightly, you can see how this front plate mechanic works. You've got the front plate here, and you've also got this ring of front plate which goes around the top, around underneath and coincides with the back plate itself, and around the bottom too. So when we overlay the hitboxes on top of this, just like that, you can see in this particular section here, the sides of the thorax are being completely covered by front plate. So the front plate really is doing the heavy lifting. The back plate's not doing as much. As I said before, you can still get shot in the front plate by getting hit just back here, because it kind of goes in this ring around your arm. And this means that it's practically impossible to get shot in the thorax without it passing through the front plate first. There is one small exception for this, which is, as you can see here, this is much more accurate, right? This is Nikita's more accurate version of what's going on. And you can see just in there, there's a little triangle between where the angledness of the front plate begins and the main front plate ends. So you've got this tiny little triangle, and you can kind of see it as it turns around. You can see this little triangle there. It also opens out a little bit here, but it's easier to see from the front. Unfortunately, there's so many hitboxes over the top that it makes it very, very difficult to see. You can still shoot through this. I literally just tested this 5 minutes ago just to make sure that I'm not telling you lies. This can still be shot through. You will normally have soft armor under here, depending on which armor you're wearing, but there is a little hole in the front plate at the front, just on the arm. It's not consistent. There's no way you can actually hit it, but occasionally you might just suddenly take damage through there from a scav or something without seeing any corresponding damage on the front plate, and that would be the reason why. You used to get killed by scavs using 762 HP because they had just enough damage to kill, but they actually lowered that to 80 so that it doesn't kill a PMC anymore. At least I think it was 80. It's under the 85 threshold anyway, because I got killed with an AA CPC rig on, which has this exact mechanics here, and I got killed with that straight through this little hole with HP ammo. So yes, the plates, they stand proud from the PMC. Side plates only protect the stomach, so take them if you want extra survivability, but it's not necessary. The front plate does most of the heavy lifting, and you can die to a shot through here, which avoids the plates themselves. All right, so now we've done enough about the armor plates. I'm going to now talk to you about some differences between some of the actual armors in the game. So we're going to have to jump back into the main game for this. Okay, so plates was point number 4. We're going to move on to number 5 now, which is about this differentiation between certain types of armor that look similar but aren't. And the Stitch Profi plate carriers are actually a really good example of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring both of these up in the menu so that we can see both of them at the same time. So this is the more basic version and this is the more meta version. The reason for that is because the soft armor on this guy is armor class 2 and the soft armor on this guy is armor class 3. That's the only situation that you can really have. There is only 1 or 2 armors with armor class 4, and they tend to be integrated soft armors, so they're not particularly good. Things like the Ulay. And so outside of that, you basically have class 3 as being the best armor that you can get with replaceable plates. So it's either 2 or 3. Now, these 2 armors differ in a particular way. The Stitch Profi plate carrier acts in the way that you normally would imagine so. We have thorax, we have stomach, lower and upper back, left side, right side, and the groin because of this flap down here. So this works exactly as you would expect. If you put a front plate and a back plate in here, you would then see F plate and back plate hitboxes also appear on this, but they're not there natively because they're their own separate hitboxes. This is the regular armor and is the one that is easiest to understand. Now there are some special armors. There's a couple of them in the game. The Stitch Profi Defense Mod 2 is one of them, where if you look at the armor areas, they're much more simple. You have left side and right side, which is the left and right sides of the stomach. And then you also have front plate, back plate, which is very strange because there aren't any plates within this armor. Normally these hitboxes only appear when there are plates inside. Now a hitbox only appears on this armor area if it is actually currently being covered and is present on the armor itself. So where is this front plate, back plate thing coming from? Well, this is why these armors are kind of special, and the AACPC is another example of this too. And what you get on these is, these were the ones that originally had very, very small coverage. So what BSG did was they linked the soft armor on the base carrier to the front plate and back plate hitboxes, because originally that was actually smaller than the size of the thorax. They haven't changed any of the mechanics for this, so even though they've increased the size of the hitboxes for the plates, they've left these mechanics exactly as they are. The ramifications of this is that you have class 3 soft armor covering everywhere that the front and back plate cover. And as we saw before, the front plate doesn't just go at the front, it goes around the arm as well. And this stops the sides of the thorax getting hit. This means that if you got shot underneath the arm, imagine you wore both of these armors with no plates, just for argument's sake, and you lifted your arm up and you got shot underneath the arm with the Stitch Profi plate carrier version 2. That bullet would go straight through without having any protection whatsoever, because there is no soft armor explicitly for the side of the thorax. This armor, however, although it's not covering the soft armor, because it follows the plate, the soft armor itself is actually present underneath the arm as if there was a plate there. And this is very interesting because it means that you will catch a 9mm bullet even without any hard armor plates in this particular rig. It's a very fringe benefit, and where it matters the most is if you're wearing a class 3 armor and also having a class 5 plate, because this is particularly good against bullets that are meta and in the range of 44 to 47 pen, which a lot of them are. 7.62 BP, PS12B for the Ash 12, M855A1, all of those kind of rounds that sit in the 44 to 47 pen threshold, even things like SP6 out of the VSS, those get affected by this mechanic the most at the sides. So if you've got a class 5 plate in either of these, then yeah, they're always going to have to go through the class 5 plate first. But what happens with this type is that because you've got soft armor underneath, if a bullet is in the 44 to 47 pen range, when it goes through the class 5 plate, it loses some damage and loses some pen. In this particular case, if you get shot in the side, there's no soft armor underneath, you just receive whatever that reduced damage is. On this particular armor, if you get shot through the side, the soft armor is there to catch it underneath, like it would be on the front on this one. And because 44 to 47 pen ends up going down into the high 30s, level 3 armor can actually do something to a bullet that is in the 30 to 40 pen range, which this bullet is after it goes through the class 5. And that's the important point. So something like M855A1 will get reduced again by the class 3. Even though normally, if you just shot a class 3 armor, it literally wouldn't stop it at all. It's only because it goes through the class 5 first. So a class 5 plus 3 combination is pretty strong, and these armors are particularly good against players. The big downside is that there is no armors of this particular type that give you neck protection at all. There are none. There is not any way that you can get neck protection whilst also having this sort of soft follows the plate mechanic, which is the big downside that you run when you use these particular armors. Now, this has changed since previously when we looked at armors, because now you can't get one shot in the neck outside of some very specialized high damage ammo, which players just typically don't tend to run, which means that these have basically been buffed compared to the situation before. And I was still already arguing that you should be using them anyway, because on the old armor style, if you had a class 2 or class 3 neck protection on its own with no plate, if somebody shoots you with M85501, that used to go to the head and it would just kill you anyway. So having the soft armor around the neck never really used to matter, and it only mattered against scavs, which only matters if you got shot by scavs, and you can kind of play around scavs. And I had somebody the other day telling me that I probably give scavs too much respect, but this is the reason, right? I used to play around them really, really carefully to try not to die to them for stupid reasons and not just take them for granted. You don't need to worry about that as much anymore, because you're not just going to get one tap by 7.62 PS to the throat, because now it goes to the thorax. You've got 85 HP to deal with that rather than 35 on the head. So that's a lot of information, I appreciate, but there's a difference between these two armors. It is quite nuanced and quite niche. The class 5 armor is doing most of the heavy lifting, and the front plate is doing most of the heavy lifting. Most of the time you're going to get shot from the front, in which case both of these will have soft armor at the front. This one follows the front armor hitbox plate, which is at the front as well as the sides. This one has it at the front and the back because it has thorax and upper back that you can see here, so you're still protected from the front just fine. This is for those specific niche shots that hit you in the sides of the thorax hitbox, which is quite high, by the way. I should probably just show you here. I mean, you can see it on Nikita's wireframe, but the thorax hitbox is really small, actually. It's only here. It's just up to the arms. If you shoot up here, obviously you're going to be hitting the left and right arm. So it's when you get caught in this little sliver down here with rounds in the 44 to 47 pen range, you normally get one extra shot to kill defense by wearing one of these special armors in here. If you're fighting against players with lower ammo, so maybe on PvE, then maybe you want the neck protection versions, which have got a more regular orientation of soft armor. But against players on PvP with high pen rounds, I typically think that you're better off having the one that has the soft armor following the front plate. I'll pop a list up on the screen as to which ones those are that have that soft following the plate so that you can see. The ones that are quite good are the Stitch Pro for defense, because that's normally quite cheap. The AACPC can be bought from Ref, so that's pretty decent. We'll look at how to purchase these things in a second. You can go for the one with Class 2, but Class 2 doesn't have the same benefit against 44 to 47 pen, because when it gets reduced into the mid-30s, Class 2 still fails against that, and it doesn't do any further damage reduction. So I would usually either go for Soft Class 3 and the soft follows the plate mechanics, or just not worry about it at all. Last point about these special armors before I move on. You know, we were talking about this little sliver previously. Because of the way that the soft armor follows the actual plate mechanics, this means that you don't have soft armor on that little hole either, which is the reason why back previously, before they made the change to 762 HP, I actually got killed in one shot wearing it was an AACPC, so same mechanics as the Stitch Profi, because the HP round went straight through the little gap and there's no soft armor underneath. If you had a more regular armor like this, it would go through the front plate, but because this has got thorax protection for the soft armor, it would normally get caught by the soft armor itself. So that's one tiny extra little downside that you might find could get you killed, potentially to a slug, for example, any of the 12 gauge slugs, they could just go through this hole and kill you. So there's a sort of 0.1% chance of you just dying in one shot to a scav because you're wearing this soft follows the plate type armor, but it's extremely unlikely and has only happened to me once ever. Okay, so the final section, where to actually buy these armors, which ones are good, how do you get to them in order of progression, and first let's look at where you actually get the armors from. In general, within Tarkov, there are pretty much 4 sources now these days. One is the regular traders, so Prapor, for example, who sells armor vests, armor rigs, same with Ragman. You then also have Ref, who sells stuff for GP coins, as he's done for a while, so you have to play through Arena and get Ref leveled up to get these things. You then also have items like the Battle Pass items. So for example, this is the Hex Attack HPC, so this is the third method that you can get things. These aren't on Ref natively, you have to complete the Battle Pass in Arena in order to get these items over on the base game, and you unlock those using your Battle Pass points over there. I have a whole video about the Battle Pass up there if you want to go and see it. And the final place is to go and find these things in Raid, which is probably the least consistent, but potentially can be good because, you know, there's other plates out there that you can't get from the traders. So first and foremost, let's have a look at what is the easiest way to get Class 5 armor, because Class 4 armor is pretty prevalent. Once you get onto the flea market, you can get Class 4 armor pretty easily. Usually I would either just advise buy any of the rigs, Banshee, MMAC, something like that, and just fill it with monoclete plates. A lot of people use these monoclete plates for back plates because they're only 1.3 kilograms. They're not very heavy. And you can usually just go MMAC, for example, and buy one of these rigs. Sometimes you can go down and find one that's got some armor in it already, which helps a little bit, or maybe the Banshee. But there's quite a lot of options for class 4 because you can just go and buy these things on the fleet. So here you can get a Shellback Banshee with 2 monoclete plates in here for 65k. So that would be decent if you just want something run-of-the-mill and class 4 to play with. But for class 5, the very earliest that you can get anything in class 5, outside of just finding it in raid, something consistent and on the traders, is at level 26. When you get to Prepel 3, you have to get to Punisher Part 2, which is a level 18 requirement. You then do Easy Job, which is where you have to plant the marker on the helicopter in Lighthouse, and then you have to complete another quest called Reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is the one where you have to go to each of the 3 buildings, Building 1, Building 2, and Building 3, onto the roof, and kind of go into the middle-ish, and it'll tick it off on the list. I still haven't actually done this quest myself, because I hate going to Lighthouse and it's a pain. But you've just got to go to each roof and that will tick it off. The beauty of Reconnaissance, although it is quite difficult, wait until the end of the raid. Hopefully someone else has killed the various guards and you can walk onto each roof. Hopefully you can do it in one run, but if you don't, it doesn't reset between them. It's not like Big Sale from Ragman, for example, on Interchange, where you have to do all the 5 shops in one go, or the ones on Shoreline for Therapist. This one you can do in different parts. So you can go up to the first roof and then die, you can go up to the second roof and then die, and then the third roof, and then you'll get it completed. So this is the earliest because this is level 26 because it's on Prepel 3. And what you get unlocked for this is this here, the Corund VM ballistic plates. This barters, you can go and see this on the flea market. This barters for a golden egg. As I said, I don't have this right now, but these are only costing about 42,000 rubles. Now, you probably don't want to put these directly into the Corund because if you don't have access to the Corund itself, it's probably not a great idea or not necessarily efficient to do it. I have a Corund VM front plate here, the class 5 one, in this Corund that I've purchased. And if you go and link search this, you can see which armors it fits into. It goes into the Bagari, which is 75k. It goes into the Corunds, which are about 56k. And it also goes into the Mountain Flora 6B23-2, as well as the 6B23-1 body armor, which can also be bartered for a propane. And the thing about this is that between the body armor versions, all of these are class 2 soft, interestingly including the Corund. The Corund only has class 2 soft armor. Some people think that the Corund is better than it is. Its only difference between this armor and the Corund is that the Corund can take side plates at the same time. Other than that, they're exactly the same. So if you're not going to bother taking side plates because they're super heavy and don't matter that much, which is a lot of the time what I do, especially when I'm looking at my weight, is you could just go and buy one of these. You can golden egg barter for the Corund front plate, and that is the easiest way to get class 5 armor. People also will think that you're undergeared when they see this. They also might not take it. You've got benefits for insurance too, because people will look at the armor and not check it, or they'll end up just leaving it and you'll be able to repair it. And that's another one of the benefits of the Corund, is that when you use the Corund itself, you got the plates which are armor steel, and they're very easy to repair. So when you get these things back in insurance, you can just run them again and again and again and again and again. So with that being the earliest one, there are some others which are the easy favorites for me. As I said, the class 5 armor at the front plate is doing the most heavy lifting. If you don't do reconnaissance or anything like that, you will just get straight up access to the Corund at Prepel 4, regardless of what you end up doing. This gives you both the front plate and the back plate, which is level 5, as well as 2 side plates as well for cash, so 185k. And I tend to buy these a lot. These only give you 1, and yeah, I know they're class 2 soft, but you can literally just press go, put it on your character, and off you go. There's a lot of wasted time in Tarkov doing all of your stash and our management loading up anyway, so just being able to buy this is pretty nice. So this is one of the baseline armors for me, despite the fact that it's not necessarily perfect, and also it's, as I said, it's easy to repair, so when you get them back in insurance, you can just repair them and go again. The next one that's very straightforward is over at Ragman level 4, so you do have to be level 42 to get access to this one, and that is this barter here. This is the Fort Defender. This requires a sledgehammer. Sledgehammers are typically about 100k, so buy one now and do this barter. It's very, very easy for what you get. And if you go down, we can see you get 2 BR4 plates. These are ceramic, so they're not necessarily that great, and they're pretty bad to repair. But this barter overall is extremely cheap, and often if this armor comes back, it's generally cheaper, rather than repairing it, it's just cheaper to buy another one and just sell the ones you've got back to Fence or Ragman or whoever will take it for the lowest price and just recycle it. It ends up costing you about 50k to recycle this thing. So it ends up just being easier buying more plates than it is to go and repair them, which is kind of a shame. There is technically a way to recycle these BR4 plates, which I was looking at earlier, but I just don't think it's worth the time taken to do it. You're better off just doing profitable trades within the lavatory rather than doing any of the plate mechanics. So if you see in here, you can see there is actually a craft. If you've done Living High is Not a Crime Part 2, you can go and make Bagaris using 2 of these BR4 ballistic plates. So you're effectively converting 2 of these into a front plate and a back plate. But the Bagari, which we're just going to get onto in a second, is another pretty cheap choice. So whether you think this is worth it or not, I don't really know. 1 hour and 48 minutes to repair some of these plates, whereas you could just go and buy this thing straight up from Ragman for the grand total of 145k. This doesn't give you any side plates. The Bagari does still give you the option to have side plates, but you've got the front and back plates there as well. The only thing is the Bagari is pretty heavy. Let's just go and have a look at the combinations that we've got our choices for. So the Bagari here, when it comes out, you've got 10.8 kilograms. So one of the downsides of the Fort Defender 2 is that it is quite heavy. It doesn't have side plates in it as an option even, and it's heavier than the Bagari even just first off, at 11.5 kilos. And then we've also got this Karund that we looked at a second ago, which is the lightest of them, but this one doesn't have a class 3 protection on its soft armor. So that's really the choices. This one is actually lighter than the Bagari, even with the side plates inside, because the Bagari is a bit of a beast. Now, the one thing that is a slight mitigating factor to that is that the Bagari is a rig, so you don't have to have a separate rig for it. So it actually ends up being pretty good. But I quite like all of these 3. These 3 armors are all very, very easy to buy. These 2 are purchasable in cash. This one is an extremely easy and cheap barter, and you can basically just cycle through these. You can get 2 of these per reset, 1 of these and 1 of these. That gives you 4 armors per reset to just cycle through. They're all going to give you class 5 armor, and they're good enough. Obviously, there are a bunch of other options as well. If you go through on Ragman, there are some other ways that you can get armors like this one, for example. Now, the problem with this is you might notice there isn't any soft armor at all on these. I don't think you should ever be using armor without soft armor because there's really no need. You can get something that's exactly equivalent because the plates are all the same these days, and the soft armor is present there as well, which helps to catch extra rounds in various situations. The only thing about this is that sometimes maybe it'd be cheaper, but at the moment with these current prices, this thing just doesn't make sense. And also the Tarkov Guardian ballistic plates, which we'll look at in a moment, these are really heavy at 3.5 kilograms. A fan favorite used to be over on Peacekeeper. He has one particular armor, which is this one, which is the class 3 Ospreys. This is the good one. Now these are bartered for SAS drives. These things end up being about 200k, and this is because people are using these to put them into the cultist circle. So this barter is nowhere near as good as it used to be, which makes this armor much less valuable. This also has Talcom Guardians, which makes this thing an insane 15.9 kilograms. So to actually use this sensibly, you basically need to take the plates out that you're given, which is kind of the whole point of doing the barter in the first place. So this is kind of an avoid these days too. One that's actually not too bad, it is a bit heavy still, is this one, the Reduce M. This one comes with 2 BR4s and no side plates, but you can put those in if you want. But this one's actually not that bad. These are normally about 50k for the 4 manuals, and this is about 80k for the books. So this is 130,000 rubles for the Fort Reduce. It's 13.5 kilograms, which again, I think is a little bit high, to be honest. But you do get neck protection on this. This is one of the weird ones where you get throat but no back of neck, bizarrely, but you get groin and buttocks, you get all the other stuff, but because of the way that the soft and hard plates work these days, you don't actually get that much more for your money or your weight versus something lighter. One that's kind of a middle ground, I wouldn't say it's as good value as the first 3 we were talking about, is this one. You got the Gen 4 body armor. This one costs 205k. So it's got Cult Locust plates, which are actually better than the Talcoms. They're a bit lighter as well, and they're pretty decent. This is still 15.3 kilograms as well, which is kind of insane, but you can buy that in cash too if you want a little bit more variety, depending on whether you like armor or not. And there's a classic one here, which is the Hexattack HPC carrier, which again, I advise no one to use because there's no soft armor on this, and there's no real reason to use an armor without soft armor, because otherwise you're just relying on the front plate. But for 3 rollers, you could basically grab these, the GAC 3S15M ballistic plates, which are some of the lightest plates. They are the lightest plates you can get in class 5 at under a kilogram, and these are great to combine with other armors. The problem with this, there's a recent quest from Skier which requires you to hand in repairs, and rollers are part of the repair barter. So these things have jumped a lot. Actually, this is not too bad now, 60k or something, but that's still 180k for 2 armor plates. There's probably better ways you can do this. This was a classic though. Keep this one in the back of your mind for either when people are done with that quest or for next wipe, because these rollers will normally be about 50k, and that allows you to get these GAC plates for 75k each, which is a pretty good deal. And you can also sell the HPC rig back itself, so it ends up being a little bit less than that. Bad options these days, as always, ends up being things like the Fort Reduce T5. This thing doesn't give you any extra benefits over running smaller armors, really, except you get these little bits of soft armor here and there. But it really doesn't matter that much. They've got insane debuffs, which are just absolutely horrible, and the price is really, really high. This is exactly the same for the Gen 4 full as well. It's got really horrible debuffs. You don't get anything extra, really, for your soft armor points. I think that BSG should make Gen 4 fulls these Reduce T5s, the Zabralo, and also the Big Thor. I think they should make some of the areas on that class 4 for soft armor, because otherwise at the moment there's just no reason to take minus 12% move speed, minus 18% move speed. You don't get enough for it. So avoid these big armors. They're expensive and they're just not worth it. There's the difference between this and this, for example, is extremely minimal. You can look at the armor plate differences there. The only thing that you're getting for the Reduce T5 is basically the arms hitboxes. You have left shoulder, right shoulder, and on that one you don't. That's really the only reason. We've got left plate and right plate on this as well, but that's not present on this one just simply because those aren't there. So there's really very little difference between some of these lower armors and the big armors, and they're super heavy and they're not worth getting. Let's take a very quick look at found in raid armors. You can find this one on Tagilla. This one has a class 6 plate in the front, the Cult Termite, which is pretty cool, and he has a class 4 in the back, so don't get tricked into thinking it's class 6 on both. You can take him out either by hitting him in the head and killing him, preferably on the back because he doesn't have any protection at the back of his helmet, and take this armor without breaking it. I did leg meta with Magnum Buck the other day and got one of these completely brand new, which is pretty cool. You've also got the Goons editions of the various rigs. It's the Knight one and the Big Pipe one that are decent. This one comes with class 5 Torcon Guardians. And this is the Cry Precision CPC. And then you've got this one, which comes with GAC 3S15Ms, the same ones from the Hex Attack, which I would say are technically a bit better. And this one is the Precision Plate Frame. So these come from the Goons. If you do get to kill those, then you can get these class 5 armors, but it's not really worth it. The only other one is the Killer Armor. Killer Armor people do generally quite like. I think this has got historic value, really, rather than anything else. If you look at the hitboxes again, it doesn't actually make that much difference. You can't put side plates in it either. And one of the big problems with this is that it's actually a bit tricky to get the back plates. So there's no real way to get these back plates. They're ceramic. There's no purchases for them from the traders for class 5 or 6, so once this is busted, you're kind of out of luck. It repairs really badly because it's ceramic, and the alternative is class 4, so these aren't really replenishable, so I don't really like them that much. Okay, moving on, let's talk about Ref. So Ref has got a couple of armors in class 5. The first one being the AACPC. This one is at Ref level 4. All of them are good at Ref level 4. And that's this one here. This is the cheapest in terms of what you get. You get front and back plates of GAC 3S15Ms. So the whole package is only 6.7 kilograms. One of the best armors in the game. You get front and back GAC plates, and you also get sides as well. You can make this even lighter if you take the side plates out. So that's up to you, personal preference. As we looked at before, the armor areas on this are very simple because this one is a soft armor, follows the plate hitbox's style of armor too, so it's one of the better ones for PvP in my opinion. 33 GP coins is still insanely cheap as far as I'm concerned, so this is probably the best one if you've got Ref. He has one other option at 43 GP coins, which is the Gen 4 full. This one is again with a Cult Locust, but these are so much heavier than the GACs. I don't really see what the value is in getting this. 13 kilograms versus 6.7. I mean, it's a no-brainer in my opinion, and the armor is very, very slightly different. And as I said, against PvP rounds, the ACPC is arguably actually slightly superior. You do get groin and buttocks protection on this, so against some flesh damage rounds, you're slightly better off with the Gen 4 full, but against most people, it's just such a fringe niche user case that usually you're just better off with the CPC. The third category we have are items from the Battle Pass. When you look at the Battle Pass, there are a couple of items that you get there that are class 5 or 6. They're all class 5 actually, just as a quick spoiler. One of them is this, the Hex Attack I've got unlocked. This is the same as the one from the barter with the rollers that we looked at, GAC 3S15M. This is 35 GP coins. Why you do this though, over the fact that you can get this, which is actually a wearable armor, unlike this guy which doesn't have soft. This should be cheaper than that for obvious reasons. You get side plates with this as well. So it's there if you really want it, but I think you're better off getting the CPC mod 1. And then there's two that I haven't got access to yet. One which is the Tactec. So there's a Tactec in Storm like this that you can get access to. This again is a GAC 3S15M style armor, and this one has got soft armor 2 at class 3, which is pretty cool. And like the CPC, this one has armor that follows the plates themselves, so it's very similar in those mechanics. Some people quite like the Tactec. I'm kind of impartial, but you can get this one through Ref as well if you want, and that one costs 39 GPs if you unlock it through the Battle Pass. The other one is the Reduce M. There's another Reduce M that you can get through Ref. This is the one on SK Woodland. You just get the 2 BR4s in the front and the back. This one, as usual, has got class 3 armor, same situation as before. And this one costs you 43 GP coins, so it's even more expensive than the CPC. So it doesn't really seem worth it either. But if you like the drip on it, then you can maybe go for this one. Finally, there is one special armor on Ref. This is not to do with the Battle Pass, and this has been the same for a while. Ref level 4 is really quite powerful, as we're all aware. And one of the things on here is the Zabralo. The Zabralo SH, this is the only place that you can get class 6 plates in the entirety of Escape from Tarkov from the traders consistently. You can obviously buy one of these per reset, and you can get class 6 plates out of this. Now, as I said before, would not advise you to run the Zabralo. Yes, you get lots of soft body parts, but these are only class 3, and the class 6 plates are doing the heavy lifting. So what I would do is I would buy this, and I would strip out these plates, and I would put them in something else that is better, is lighter, is not 20 kilograms, and is not minus 17% move speed. Unless BSG do some buffs to the soft armor on these things, these are just never going to be used except for memes and for particular quests that ask you to. You also don't need to get the one from Ref. There is one on Prepor, but it comes empty. It's a new barter that they did so that you can actually do some of the quests. So you barter for all this, but it is empty. It's only the one on Ref that comes with plates. Ref also has an armor like this that you would expect to be class 6. This one, the Juk body armor here, but this one is completely empty as well. So the only one that you can get with class 6 plates is from Ref, except for stuff that you find in raid, either in places like Kibba if you're looking for plates, or on the bosses, again, if you're looking for plates and armor with them. But these BR5s are pretty powerful. Class 6 is class 6. It's definitely a notch above class 5, but they're kind of hard to get. So what exactly is the best armor that you can put together in EFT? Well, I would argue it's this. So you get the BR5 and then you have to put it in something. Not every single armor can take the BR5. So if you go a linked search the BR5s themselves, we can go and see the full list of everything that takes it. I'm hoping that everything's on the flea market. And as you can see, the Stitch Defense Mod 2, this one actually is one of the armors that takes it. The Gen 4s are not, so you can't put those in the Gen 4s, but there is quite a big list of armors there. The one that I want to point out and give particular attention to, if you've got plates lying around, is this guy here. I'm going to be focusing again on class 3 soft armor, and the ANA M2 is one that doesn't actually have a neck protection. It does give you regular soft armor, so it's not a follows the plate type of model, but you don't get neck on here. But these do have class 3, so they are in the upper echelon, and they're usually really, really cheap. You can buy some from Ref, they're 15 GPs if you want to buy the base from there. This probably comes with class 4, but we don't really care about these things because they're like 2.2 kilograms, and class 4, as we said, is easy to get. You just put some monocleats in it because they're really light. So you can go and buy this as a base. You can stick the BR5s in and have class 6 armor that is really quite powerful. These are also kind of annoying to loot. These are not the biggest rig ever, so it might not be one that you want to do, but this is certainly an option. There's a few others that we've seen already. So the Fort Defender 2, this actually will take those BR5s. Not surprising because it takes the BR4s. You've got the Reduced M, which is in this list as well, which you can pop it into if you want. The Thor Concealable, which is kind of a good alternative to the ANA M2 if you want something that allows you to wear your own rig, if you want to have more pockets for grenades or whatever else. And you technically have the Osprey Protection too, but these things usually are pretty expensive on the flea market, and as I said, they're quite pricey from Peacekeeper as well. So only use them if you really, really like them for whatever reason and you kind of have money to burn. Those are all of the class 3s that have a regular soft armor style. There are 2 in this category that can take the BR5s and have the plate following mechanic, and that is the Stitch Profi Defense Mod 2 we looked at before, and the AA CPC. So you could put those BR5s in these 2 armors, and for the CPC you could buy the Zabralo from Ref, and then you could take the GAC plates out of this guy, swap them over with the Zabralo, sell the Zabralo, use the GAC plates for a different armor, and then use the BR5s in this particular armor. If you really want to fiddle around and mess about with it, I think that's probably the best, either this guy or this guy. Technically speaking, the Stitch Profi Defense is very slightly better than the CPC because the soft armor has slightly better durability, but the debuffs are a lot lower on the Stitch Profi. So I think a lot of people would personally prefer to go for the CPC Mod 1 simply because you don't get any move speed debuffs, no turn speed debuffs, and only a minus 1% ergonomics debuff. Whereas on this thing, it's already 6, 3, and minus 1 before you've started adding plates. So I think the CPC probably is still the best armor in the game for this, especially if you're putting in these BR5s. But if you don't want to go all the way, then these ANA Tactical M2s are usually much more cost effective and give you approximately the same defense. So as a recap, you have soft armor and you have plate armor. Soft armor is stuck to the PMC's body and is determined by the hitboxes that you see in the tooltip. Plate armor is separate from the PMC and stands outside of the PMC's body. There are 2 different types of armor, one where the soft armor follows the plate, and one where the soft armor is as per the usual hitboxes. The ones where the soft armor follows the plate are strictly slightly better for PvP because they give you a bit better coverage underneath the arms where you have soft armor as well, versus the regular armor where you only have front plate protection and not soft armor. The neck hitbox is a lot less important than it used to be because it's now connected to the thorax, so you can get away with armors without neck protection these days like the AACBC even more than you could before, making them overwhelmingly the best armors in the game in my opinion, and I'll leave a list of those up on the screen. So next up, if you haven't checked out my latest batch of headset testing because some people have missed it, check that out here. Otherwise, a big shout out to all my patrons, and as always, have fun in your raids.